Berlin, July 31st, 1931. Inside the AEG Research Institute, an engineer named Albert Corradi watched a strange new machine hum into continuous operation. It was a refrigerator built with copper coils surrounding a sealed tube of silvery liquid metal designed by Albert Einstein and Leó Szilárd to stop a silent epidemic of families dying in their sleep. I am going to show you how the world's most famous physicist built an impossible machine that couldn't leak, only to have it buried by a safe gas that couldn't die. To understand why Einstein was building a refrigerator out of liquid metal in 1931, you have to look at the mechanical traps sitting in kitchens at the time. In the 1920s, refrigerators were killing their owners. The machines used toxic gases like sulfur dioxide, ammonia, and methyl chloride to carry heat out of the cold box, but the compressor that pushed those gases needed an electric motor. In those days, the motor sat outside the system and drove a piston inside through a spinning metal shaft. That shaft had to physically puncture the pressurized pipe. Engineers sealed the gap with soft packing rings, but a spinning shaft eventually wears its seal down. It is a wear seal on a moving part, holding back a pressurized toxic gas in a domestic appliance for years unattended. And when the seal failed, the gas leaked out into the house. Methyl chloride was the worst offender because its odor was faint and not unpleasant. It gave you almost no warning. You would just go to sleep and never wake up. Einstein and Szilárd knew this was a mechanical problem. If the gas escapes through the seal around a spinning shaft, the solution is simple: remove the shaft. Between 1926 and 1933, Einstein and Szilárd filed over 45 patent applications across at least 6 countries. They designed several machines, but the most radical was the one humming on Corradi's test bench that July afternoon. It was an electromagnetic pump. A normal compressor needs a solid piston to push the refrigerant, and that piston needs a shaft. Einstein and Szilárd replaced the solid piston with a plug of liquid potassium-sodium alloy. They wrapped the pipe in electromagnetic coils and ran alternating current through them. When you put a conductive liquid inside a traveling magnetic field, it feels something called the Lorentz force. The magnetic field grips the metal liquid directly and drags it forward. That moving column of metal becomes a frictionless piston, compressing the refrigerant. Nothing rotates, nothing penetrates the pressure boundary. There is no seal to fail because there is no shaft to seal. To build a refrigerator with no leak path, they filled it with a metal that catches fire on contact with water. Einstein visited the laboratory at each stage of construction to check on the prototypes, and on that day in 1931, the machine worked exactly as the mathematics promised, drawing just 136 watts. It was a masterpiece of physics, but it was about to be annihilated by a chemist in Ohio. While Einstein was engineering the mechanical leak out of existence in Berlin, Thomas Midgley Jr. was attacking the exact same problem from the chemical side in Dayton, Ohio. Midgley worked under Charles Kettering at General Motors. In 1928, Kettering tasked him with finding a refrigerant that wasn't toxic and wouldn't burn. Midgley's team landed on a compound called dichlorodifluoromethane, better known as Freon 12. In April 1930, at an American Chemical Society meeting in Atlanta, Midgley announced his new gas to the world. And as the standard account tells it, he demonstrated it in the most dramatic way possible. He poured the liquid into an open container, placed his face over the vapors, inhaled deeply, and then slowly breathed the gas out to extinguish a candle. He proved with his own lungs that the chemical was completely harmless and totally unflammable. He solved the toxicity problem by exploiting chemical inertness. Poisons hurt you by reacting with your biochemistry. Fire is a radical chain reaction that needs to pull atoms apart to keep burning. Midgley's molecule was built with carbon-fluorine and carbon-chlorine bonds that were incredibly strong, and it had no hydrogen atoms for other chemicals to grab. It simply refused to react with anything. Now, you might have heard a different story why Freon was invented. A widely repeated myth claims that a massive 1929 refrigerant leak at a Cleveland hospital killed over 100 people, inspiring Midgley to invent his safe gas. That is completely false. The Cleveland Clinic disaster was caused by decomposing and burning nitrocellulose X-ray film stored in an unventilated basement, not a refrigerator. And the timeline is backwards. Midgley's team synthesized Freon in 1928, a full year before the fire.
There was no single triggering tragedy. Both Einstein and Midgley were independently trying to cure a chronic decade-long hazard. But Midgley's chemical cure made Einstein's mechanical cure entirely redundant. If the gas inside the machine is perfectly safe to breathe, nobody cares if the machine leaks. And even worse for Einstein, General Motors' rival, GE, had already solved the leak problem 3 years earlier with the monitor top refrigerator, which welded the motor and compressor inside a single steel shell. Between the monitor top's welded seal and Freon's harmless chemistry, the Einstein Szilárd machine lost its entire reason to exist. But that perfect safety hid a delayed catastrophe. Midgley didn't just build a safe gas, he built an indestructible gas. Indestructibility reads as safe in a kitchen, but it reads as catastrophic 25 kilometers up in the stratosphere. Here's the incredible irony of Freon. The exact same property that made it safe to inhale, its absolute refusal to react with anything, meant that nothing in the lower atmosphere could destroy it.
It doesn't wash out in the rain. The atmosphere's natural chemical scavengers can't break its strong bonds. So, the Freon that leaked out of a kitchen fridge simply drifted, intact, for years. The only thing in the atmosphere energetic enough to snap the molecule's carbon-chlorine bond is shortwave UV light. But that light doesn't exist at ground level because the Earth's ozone layer absorbs it. That is the ozone layer's entire job. So, as long as the Freon stayed low, the ozone layer itself acted as a shield, protecting the very molecule that was destined to destroy it. The ozone layer protected its own assassin. It took roughly 5 years for the gas to drift upward, climbing past the ozone that was shielding it. And there, above the layer, the UV light finally struck. The light snapped the bond and freed a chlorine atom. And a single free chlorine atom in the stratosphere acts as a catalyst, tearing apart tens of thousands of ozone molecules over its lifetime. Thomas Midgley's perfectly safe gas was tearing a hole in the sky.
But that is not the strangest part of this story, because the Einstein refrigerator didn't actually lose a fair fight to Freon in the free market. It was buried by many hands. Einstein and Szilárd had patented an earlier absorption design that used no electricity at all. In 1927, the Swedish appliance giant Electrolux bought that patent. But their own company files reveal they bought it mostly to safeguard their own pending patents. They paid a few thousand marks, called it very cheap, and shelved it. They bought the machine to block it. Then there was the noise. The pump had no moving parts, but forcing liquid metal through it caused cavitation, tiny collapsing bubbles, and the physicist Dennis Gabor joked that the prototype howled like a jackal. The engineers eventually tamed the howl. What they could not tame was history. The Great Depression cut the AEG Research Institute in half, and in 1932, the project was dropped. And in 1933, the Nazi Party seized power in Germany. Szilárd fled to Britain, Einstein left for America, and Korody went to Budapest. The collaboration was permanently shattered. The safest refrigerator ever designed died of everything except safety.
Think back to that July afternoon in Berlin in 1931. Albert Korody watching the liquid metal pump humming on the test bench. The machine worked exactly as the mathematics promised. If history had tilted just slightly, if the Depression hadn't hit, if Electrolux had built the absorption model instead of burying it, the 20th century might have been cooled by Einstein's physics instead of Midgley's chemistry, and the ozone layer might never have been threatened. But instead, the world chose the indestructible gas, and decades later, we had to sign a global treaty to ban it, forcing chemists
to engineer a new generation of refrigerants that were deliberately weaker, just so the atmosphere could finally break them down. So, here's a question for you. Do you think technological progress always favors the most elegant solution, or just the one that is cheapest to mass produce at the time? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this journey into the unintended consequences of science, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to LynxSifts Tech and Science. Think of your subscription like a perfectly sealed system. It ensures you never leak a single drop of curiosity. I will see you in the next video.